No one in that grand ballroom expected the night to take such a dramatic turn. When a journalist mocked Donald Trump at a high-profile charity gala, laughter filled the air, until he stood up. What happened next left the entire room in stunned silence. When a journalist mocked Donald Trump at a high-profile charity gala, no one expected his response to completely shift the atmosphere. The ballroom at the Fairmont Grand Hotel was a vision of opulence. Crystal chandeliers reflected off polished marble floors, and the hum of polite conversation filled the space. Some of the nation's most influential figures were in attendance. Business moguls, Hollywood elites, and top-tier journalists, all gathered for an annual fundraiser supporting underprivileged youth. The air buzzed with anticipation. The event's keynote speaker was about to take the stage. Among the attendees, seated at a private table near the side of the room, was Donald Trump. Though not in the spotlight tonight, his presence did not go unnoticed. At 78, the former president still commanded attention effortlessly. He sat back in his chair, hands resting on the table, his expression unreadable as he observed the night unfold. Everything about the evening had been smooth. Waitstaff moved seamlessly between guests, serving champagne and delicate hors d'oeuvres. A string quartet played in the background, and laughter occasionally rippled through the crowd. Yet everyone knew the main event was the speech. The journalist headlining the night was well known. A celebrated figure in liberal media circles, famous for their biting commentary and sharp wit. Their speeches were never just words. They were performances. As the host introduced the journalist, the room fell into a hush. All eyes turned to the stage. Dressed in a sleek, tailored black suit, the journalist stepped up to the podium with an air of confidence. Their signature smirk hinted at the kind of speech they were about to deliver. Bold, unfiltered, and bound to make waves. They started light, warming up the audience with jokes about the city's infamous traffic and an amusing mishap from a past gala. Laughter spread through the room, melting some of the initial tension. But then, their tone shifted. The jokes became sharper. Their commentary on politics and culture grew more pointed. It wasn't long before the focus landed squarely on Donald Trump. "Well, we can't talk about the state of the world without mentioning the man who made orange the new black," the journalist quipped. The audience chuckled, some more hesitantly than others. Love him or hate him, you have to admit. He's the gift that keeps on giving, for people like me. Scattered laughter followed, but there was a noticeable shift in the atmosphere. Some attendees exchanged glances. Others stiffened. Seated at his table, Trump remained perfectly still, his expression unreadable. If the journalist noticed, they didn't let on. At least, not yet. The jabs kept coming. His policies, his public appearances, even his social media habits, each remark met with a mix of chuckles and uneasy murmurs. But then, the journalist leaned forward slightly, pausing for effect. And of course, let's not forget his most overlooked legacy, his ability to take up space in our heads rent-free. I mean, imagine being nearly 80 and still the most talked-about man in every room. A ripple of nervous laughter swept through the audience, but something was different. This joke didn't land quite the same way. Some guests shifted in their seats, the unease growing more noticeable. The spotlight was now on Trump, unasked for, yet inevitable. Yet he did not react. Not a flinch, not a twitch. He remained composed, his gaze steady. If the journalist had hoped for a reaction, a scoff, a smirk, even a dismissive wave, they were met with something far more unsettling. Absolute stillness. The silence in the room became deafening. A few people cleared their throats. The journalist, usually so in control, hesitated for just a fraction of a second. Then, in an attempt to regain control, they chuckled into the microphone. "Tough crowd," they muttered. And then Donald Trump moved. Slowly, deliberately, he pushed back his chair and stood. The soft scrape of wood against marble was the only sound in the vast ballroom. At 6 feet 3 inches, he was an imposing figure, even more so now as he straightened his suit jacket. His eyes scanned the room before settling on the journalist. A hush fell over the audience. Every breath, every movement ceased as Trump took a step forward. Then another. Each step measured, unwavering. The journalist, who had moments ago owned the stage, now stood frozen as Trump approached. He stopped at the edge of the stage, looking up at the journalist with a quiet intensity. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, firm, but calm. "Thank you for your insights," he said simply. The words were polite, but the weight behind them was unmistakable. The journalist blinked, caught off guard. Trump continued, his tone measured. "I've spent decades watching people write stories, make assumptions, and take their shots. It comes with the territory. I don't expect kindness, but I do expect something else. Substance." The room was utterly silent. Even those who had laughed at the jokes now sat motionless, hanging on to every word. "There's a difference between challenging someone and just taking easy shots," Trump said, his gaze unwavering. "You want to change minds? Challenge ideas? Do it with something that matters, not cheap lines for a few laughs." The journalist, gripping the podium, seemed visibly uncomfortable now. This wasn't the reaction they had anticipated. Trump shifted slightly, now addressing not just the journalist, but the entire room. "Words have power," he said. "They can divide, or they can build. They can tear down, or they can inspire. Choose wisely." For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, somewhere in the room, a single clap rang out. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the ballroom erupted into applause. A standing ovation swept across the room. Some clapped in admiration, others as if redeeming the moment from the awkwardness that had settled over it earlier. The journalist, still standing at the podium, forced a tight smile. But it was clear. The night no longer belonged to them. Trump, however, didn't bask in the applause. He gave a brief nod and returned to his seat, composed as ever. It wasn't humility. It wasn't shyness. It was the confidence of a man who had said exactly what needed to be said. Within hours, clips of the moment flooded social media. Attendees had discreetly recorded Trump's words, and now they were everywhere. Headlines debated the moment. Some praised his composure, calling it a masterclass in handling criticism. Others dissected the journalist's remarks, questioning the ethics of taking shots at public figures in such a setting. By the next morning, talk shows, podcasts, and news panels buzzed with the incident. Some called it a defining moment, a reminder that dignity in the face of provocation still held power. Others saw it as a turning point, a shift in the way public figures might handle criticism moving forward. For Trump, though, the media storm seemed irrelevant. He moved on with his day, unaffected, as he always had. But the impact of that night lingered. Discussions at dinner tables, offices, and classrooms dissected not just the drama, but the lesson within it. In a world fueled by outrage and reaction, Trump's choice to respond with composure, confidence, and clarity stood out. And whether you agreed with him or not, one thing was undeniable. He had owned the moment. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life moments that challenge the way we think. Let's keep the conversation going.